I'm
Okay.
gonna say this once. Now show me a pecker.
You can start your introduction.
You want to be famous, eh, Eddie?
You want to be a star, don't you?
This is normal, see? Okay. Hey, everybody. Welcome to our third episode of the Lan Closet. So today, I've got some people helping us out with this one. This is some of the regulars here. We've got Spencer, Eddie, Alex, and myself. I'll give you a quick background on the guys so you know what they're about, and then we'll get into all the technology news for the week. So, Spencer, tell us a little bit about you.
I'm a computer scientist, and I love technology, computers, working in Linux, like building computers, and motorcycles.
Eddie.
Oh, me? I'm into business stuff. No, I really want to get into a bit of the web design, web development areas of things.
Yeah.
And
He's a partner in a web development company.
yeah, so other than that, just out of hobbies, I'm an anime games kind of guy, you know?
Yeah.
Nerdy stuff, yeah.
Alex.
Oh, I am a professional writer. I do web content for people who own their own businesses, as well as freelancing for a lot of magazines. I do a lot of journalism, and I also write for the screen as well.
And you guys know me from all the YouTube channels. You know, if you have any questions about me, dive in. Just leave a question. If you have any questions for any of us, just leave a comment below, and we'll chat about that. So without hesitation, let's get into probably the coolest thing. I think we can all agree that this is the coolest thing that's happened this week. It's CES 2015. Microsoft Holo.
Yeah, it is completely in a league of its own.
Is it not? So, back in 1998, we had this thing called the IBM Stealth, which was a desktop computer that came with a virtual headset. And up until recently, the level of virtual reality hadn't evolved since 1998. The technology...
Virtual Boy.
The technology was always there. Well, that was a pretty bad example. The technology was always there. There was just never anyone developing for it. So it came out with 12 initial games, a dirt biking game with a dirt would spray up at your face and things. Because there was no developers for the products itself.
Well, I think the concept was there, the technology and the
technology was
economics
there.
of
The economics weren't there.
hadn't caught up to it yet.
Right. There wasn't an interest in the reality of it yet.
But look at the progression of ideas.
Right, fast forward to 2015, Oculus was just recently bought by Facebook for almost $3 billion.
Yeah.
So we're talking a huge shift in the perspective of the consumer. What do you guys think?
I mean, just like the way you have been looking at VR, virtual reality. It's a concept that people are so amazed by, but it hasn't been there. Like, we keep thinking technology hasn't reached it, but maybe it has.
So now here's the thing. I don't think it's virtual reality. Spencer, you're a fan of the holodeck.
Yeah.
You laughed this off. You said, "Where's my holodeck?"
Exactly.
So tell me your perspective on that.
Well, I don't know. I think for virtual reality, the HoloLens isn't really VR. You consider something more like the Oculus to be VR, where it's all about getting you into that area and making you feel like you're actually there. And right now, Oculus is probably the closest. I know Sony has a competitor device coming up, and I'm sure there's lots of other ones out there. But
Dozens now.
I think I see the HoloLens more as something that it's another peripheral. It does have a computer on board, but it's a peripheral that I think is going to be more about helping people create content. Like the video that they have, they're showing the people creating the 3D models and then being able to create it on a desk in front of them. And I think that's something that's really cool. But is it game changing?
So here's the big thing to keep in mind. It's not virtual reality. It's augmented reality.
Yeah.
So the glasses are clear, and you see everything the way you would, just the things around you are enhanced.
So it's a fancy Google Glass, in other words.
Well, no. Let's not mix this up with Google Glass.
No, I think it's more about creating an interactive environment around what's already there rather than, trying to suck you into the World of Warcraft or something like that, right? So I think the interesting point, especially in the marketing of the concept,
That's a really interesting point.
is that they're not really focused on making it a niche thing. Like, they're not just trying to pawn it off just on people in business or just on people in games. It's like, even if you want to watch Netflix or check your email or anything like that.
Fix your faucet.
And watch YouTube videos. You could probably even cut your own hair while you're watching the video. I wouldn't recommend it, but...
Imagine putting IKEA furniture together with virtual instructions as you go.
Yeah, or even when you're just
hologram,
trying to
right?
decorate your house as an
You don't even
interior
need
designer.
furniture.
Exactly, like
You can just put digital posters up.
and like samples and things like that, right?
There could be naked women everywhere in your office.
Only you can see them. We're Superman with the X-ray vision now.
This is just my office. Boobs. There's so many.
No, but like, you know what I mean? Like, I think the application is incredibly socially malleable. It's
You're
very
right.
flexible. So
That's
like,
very interesting.
you know, for people in architecture and engineering, like, you know, you could design an entire skyscraper on this coffee table right here, and you wouldn't have to worry about if you lost your blueprints or if they got damaged.
And you could also size it up and envision it in place.
And put it in its scale, and I don't know, I think it opens it up to more being a universal, like, gadget rather than something like people who are just, like, into one field.
Okay,
You know what
now
I mean?
here's something a little scary. Okay, because we know those hackers are out there.
Oh,
Okay, so
yeah.
imagine if a hacker got a hold of your Google, of your hollows.
Nightmares.
Your halos, hollows, whatever they're calling it, the hollows. Imagine they just were creeping out on you all day, walking around throughout your real life.
Well, and using it as, like, a surveillance device.
Right,
or
now we know
something
this
like that.
happens. Sony hack. Let's talk about the Sony hack. I know this is old news, this is new news, this is news.
It's
always
reoccurring news.
Right.
It's an ongoing story.
So everybody
You
here,
see
I'm
these
guessing everyone watching at home knows about the Sony hack.
Huge deal.
Basically,
Big
they
loss.
had said, an anonymous source had suggested that they had a bunch of information about Sony, told them that they had to basically respond within a certain time period. Then they used some of the Sony servers to actually dump out zipped files of documentation, internal emails, hard drives, all sorts of different stuff.
Major motion pictures, like
Yeah,
what's
that's
like
those are
on
major
video
ones.
games.
That was
Yeah.
after they did the warrant. They destroyed everything. They moved 10 terabytes of data off
Through
the
their
network.
internal
Yeah,
network.
I don't know.
Oh, they moved that off the network,
Right.
and then they started destroying the servers, actual servers on the computers, and that's when someone decided, oh, there's something wrong here.
What do you think about a conspiracy there?
And now they're essentially holding it as like intellectual ransom,
Now,
essentially.
right, and that's kind of it was almost a ransom situation. Now, Sony admitted later that they understood about these vulnerabilities 2 months beforehand, that it was brought to their attention. There was actually reports brought to their attention by some of the board, some of the official bodies of the government. Were like, hey, by the way,
Yeah.
we just paid this guy X amount of dollars and told us about this problem, which we're telling you have to fix.
Yeah.
And they didn't.
Well, especially after they were subject to, like, you know, that whole international conspiracy where they thought, like, North Korea was going to, like, break
Right,
into
so
their
North
computers.
Korea hired people in China to hack it. Now, hackers for hire anywhere. I could make myself look like I'm coming from China right now. It's called proxy tunneling, guys. It's very simple stuff.
Yeah.
If you're interested in it, you can look up VPNs, proxy servers, proxy tunnels. If you are interested in doing these types of things, you never do these. They now even show that the air-gapped computers, we'll talk about that in a second, have been hacked. But if you're ever going to be doing something that you shouldn't be, or something that you want to be sneaky about or funny about, you basically load a bootable operating system on a DVD or CD, and you take that to a public place, and you do everything through a proxy, through a VPN. And at that point, aside from there being a security camera on you that day, if there's not a security camera facing the computer in the Starbucks or the library or the front hall of the hotel, whatever it is, there's not really much anyone can really do.
In way of plausible evidence, no.
So
Yeah, not if you look at what happened to Ross Ulbricht.
Well, okay. Okay, now we'll talk about that in a second too, so that's interesting.
They got him in the library.
So
on
we'll
his
talk
computer.
about, okay, and that's why.
But
And we'll talk about the air gapping too, which is really incredible. This is something that they actually showed at the DEF CON conference this year. So Sony hack.
what do you think about the nature of it? It's like
Well, we'll fast forward to the
It's
Sony
okay.
hack. So
That's
they basically talk. They try to make it spin about it's the interview, and this interview can't.
oh yeah, all that crap.
Mm.
And of course, we all know that I think Sony and those guys. If you saw how many appearances they did that week,
Mhm.
you know that they were milking the crap out of it.
Oh yeah,
they
milking the
paid the-
tit dry. Like it was
yeah.
total media blitz, man.
Media
yeah.
blitz.
Well,
Okay,
what did
man.
they do? They went and had a security company that they paid to write a letter to their president saying it wasn't their fault at what happened. And then the FBI came up saying that they have physical evidence, or they have evidence that it was North Korea, but no one's
No.
going to be able to see those levels because they're tapping all the networks at the right on the wire. So
Right.
Mhm.
We know about those mysterious rooms and those servers.
This whole thing just reeks of inside job to me, and I'm not
Inside
even like a
job.
political analyst. Like, does it really seem that unrealistic that could be the most plausible thing,
That it
like
was
the
all-
most plausible culprit
it was
in
Sony
that
the whole
scenario?
time. Look, so at its very most sinister, it was Sony. Or
Or
it was
like an
Illuminati
ex-Sony
or
employee
whatever.
who just got pissed.
Yeah,
or
that
something
was the
like
one that was.
At its best and most economical, it was a business taking a bad situation and turning it into a wonderful business opportunity.
Essentially,
So-
it's chicken
so
shit into chicken
aside-
salad.
Aside from being shitty at security, Sony, kudos to your
Media
to your
blitz. You
department.
certainly know how to
Kudos
cook up
to
a
the
storm in the
market.
press.
That's right. Okay, so now let's talk about the Wii rules. Wii rules. So
The YouTube stuff.
Nintendo, for the first time, is now going to be allowing people to upload video footage to YouTube and other websites. So,
Like, how stupid that, like, Nintendo has been shutting it so much. Even when you want to follow these kind of material, you're not allowed to because Nintendo shuts it down.
right.
I mean, even if you do want to, you know. What
So
can you do?
Nintendo has had a long-running ban on footage. They basically felt that nobody should be able to monetize from anything that they've created. So anything with music, theme music, intro, background music, video game music, this stuff is all found by the Nintendo music bots on YouTube and things, and they flag you, they take it down, they strike your account. Becomes quite the issue for YouTubers. Now, Nintendo has recently suggested that they're now changing their policy on that. So they're going to allow you to now upload Nintendo stuff. But to do that, you have to apply. There's going to be 4 different types of modes you can apply for. Not monetizing, etc. 2 others as well. But basically, Nintendo will be paying you. So they will still retain the ad revenue from YouTube because they will flag the video as a Nintendo video or having anything to do with anything Nintendo.
It's like officially sanctioned,
Right.
essentially.
And then within 2 months, or about 2 months later, they will directly PayPal you your percentage of that ad revenue. Now, this is a really funny...
Silly.
It's a really
At least it's
funny
not, but-
way to do it. You know, for a big thing, Nintendo has been really hurt, I think, by this. We know that guys like PewDiePie, you look at Skate 2,
Yeah.
they actually had to take that game and put it back into printing.
Huh.
They actually had to print like waves of actual physical copies of these DVDs again.
Because it got like resurrected.
Because
like the
this
demand for
one
it
guy
became-
was playing this game online, and it became such a thing that people were buying it, and so they had to put it back into production. So we know that the YouTubers have the ability to generate huge interest in video games.
Oh, absolutely.
What's your opinions about Nintendo's setup? It's going to take you 2 months to get paid, if you get paid. They have to approve you, and you're just hoping that this is all going to work and is transparent, because you're not going to be able to see any analytical data about it.
Yeah, what about they're going to actually manage it on their end? I don't see them as being so competent to actually follow it all the way through. I mean, right now they're using bots just to shut people down.
Right.
Now they need actual human resources to approve it.
Which I'm sure they didn't program.
But
Yeah.
at the same time, too, I think it's really interesting just to see them go from, like, you know, being so against this to trying to adapt to it in a new way by creating their own format, essentially, that could really work for any major thing. Like, let's say you wanted to make fake movie trailers and you wanted to use clips from actual movies.
Right.
You could use this as a platform to monetize any kind of copyrighted
How
material.
interesting is that?
Right? Like, let's say you wanted to use a song by Metallica in your YouTube video. You could apply for an account through them, and then
Or
you...
whoever holds those licenses.
Right. So, really, it's a format that you could apply to a lot of different things, so a lot of copyright holders feel like they're not getting nearly as backdoored as they were before.
Right, because it's 1-to-1, or at least one to your...
They're at least getting a slice of the pie. They're being included in the process. And
Well,
so,
Alex, That is one of the most intellectual counterpoints I've heard on the subject so far.
wow.
And to be honest, like, the first one through the wall always gets a little bloody. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's a brand new thing. Obviously, it's not going to be bulletproof. Like, you know, it's going to have flaws, and they're going to be tweaking it as they go. But to be honest...
They've already tweaked it twice.
But that's what I mean. So it's going to be an ongoing, evolving process. But I think it's a really interesting way to kind of bridge the middle ground and use the internet as ground zero to let the audience and the copyright holders kind of collaborate in creating new material.
So Raspberry Pi, let's go there.
Mm-hmm.
Mini computers.
There's one of us in this room who owns a Raspberry Pi.
So yeah, I've got one of the first ones. So they just released the new Raspberry Pi, and so it's still $35, but now it has a ARM quad-core processor.
Yeah.
It has 2 gigabytes of RAM, so that's double the RAM, and
Full HDMI.
and full HDMI. The original was full HDMI too.
Right, but it's a big deal because a lot of the newer models went to the micro HDMI's, but it's still full HDMI out.
Full HDMI.
2 USB,
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
and was it one Ethernet?
port,
One Ethernet port as well. Built-in Wi-Fi. Onboard Wi-Fi or
I
no?
don't think I'd have to check.
I'm sure there'd be a model with the built-in Wi-Fi or Bluetooth.
Usually the B model has just more RAM.
Right. Okay. Interesting. But
You
go
just
on. Tell
get-
us about the application of the Raspberry Pis. Why does anyone care?
Well, the Raspberry Pi, it's a $35 computer. All you have to do is have your peripherals. So you get yourself a keyboard, a mouse, and
A monitor.
and a monitor. So it's a basic HDMI. So basically any monitor you can buy nowadays. You get a cheap monitor, $50. And you've got yourself a computer, and it's basically designed for third world countries where you can't buy a computer.
Not a possibility on that.
It also has a ton of POS applications and entertainment displays and things. For example, anytime you walk into a store and you see that little menu that says, "Hello, welcome to Best
Future
Buy.
Shop or whatever.
This
yeah.
is the shit we're trying to sell you this week." Or
Oh, and the most important thing is that it runs Linux. So the most important thing being that it runs Linux, so everything's open source.
very cool.
Mm.
So that's cool. We like that. That's micro computing.
Essentially making computers like affordable to anybody. Talked about
Raspberry.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what Spencer wanted to talk about.
What did I want to talk about?
Getting arrested.
Getting arrested.
So air gapping. Air gap computers. You guys are familiar with air gap computers. Air gap computers are computers that have never been plugged into the internet. Now, these computers are supposed to be safe. These are supposed to be computers that you can use to leave your sensitive information on, leave encrypted. Now,
like a digital vault. So
one of the things that I saw at DEF CON this year, they talked about was one of the really interesting things, the air gapped. They were actually using the frequency of the processors to determine what keys were being pressed. Now, there was also someone who did this by the sound of the keyboard clicking. So they were listening, it would listen to you type, and then it would actually start to create a database of what those words would possibly be. And by the end, it was down to like a 2% error rate.
So no
Right.
matter how
Determine-
prepared you are,
It
it's
would
not gonna
determine,
happen.
this could be you in the airport,
Yeah.
like 16 seats away from you, listening to you type, and it could determine, it could be keylogging you.
Well, that's like in surveillance techniques when people can determine what phone numbers you're calling by the frequency of the number you're pressing, right? Because they all have a different tone, but it's just on a bigger scale.
Right, that tone creates an audio frequency.
Yeah, totally.
Which creates a which
So-
creates an electronic frequency.
So
or
they basically
magnetic
just
frequency.
took that concept and amplified it
So
and
they're-
put it
they're
under a
looking at-
microscope.
So basically, they're looking at the buzzing of. So that's the sound, but now
That's
there's
crazy.
this equipment which is less than $2,000, which can be purchased by private groups right now. These things are functional. You can buy these.
Security firms, whatever.
Or whatever. You don't even need a special light.
Or a PI license
Right.
to get one of these.
Right. What's the number? 11267. There's your number. If they ask you for a number, give them 11267. Don't tell them I told you that.
Well, there's no perfect building for these vulnerabilities.
That's your department.
That's all you can do.
Okay.
You do what you can.
So you can now be keylogged from across the room, and these things look about the size of a large iPhone charger. So they
Wow.
look like a wall adapter. Now, let's take this to the next level. You can actually unplug these things. You can put they come with batteries inside of them. So even if they were to like unplug this from the wall, it'll still run for 72 hours or 2 weeks or something. Still continually logging and digitally backing.
All it's doing is soaking up information, right? So it's not putting anything out, which is only going to make the battery time, like make the juice in this sucker last that much longer, right? Which is scary.
Or you could just plug this in at the office, and basically you could keylog what people's passwords and things are all around you.
Or if employers want to see if people are like typing personal emails or dicking around on the company dime and things like that. So this could be coming to your office space.
So we know that they still can't break encryption, and we know this because recently they arrested someone in a very interesting fashion for very special reasons.
Well, that you can't blame that on encryption, but basically,
They had already been into his house.
What was this guy's name
again? And they already had physical...
Ross Ulbricht.
And they already had physical access to his laptop, they said. And they were not able to break his encryption on his hard drive.
Yeah, usually they can't. That's why whenever the feds arrest someone, they have to get their computer open before it locks.
Right. So, they had broken into this guy's house. They had been monitoring this guy. They had taken his laptop previously and brought it back. The FBI has this in the reports, and they were not able to get the information off of it. So how did they get it? So
basically, there was one detective that had been infiltrating the Silk Road for months. He got two or three buyer accounts that he compromised after, I guess, assumingly arresting these people. Then he managed to find another person who was a seller on the account, who he took over their account, and then he found one of the admins who gave over his account to this guy. And he was so the undercover agent was talking to DPR, Dread Pirate Roberts, who's the guy who runs the Silk Road, and he was sending him messages, and Ross Ulbricht was at the university library talking on his laptop, and this guy was somewhere nearby, and he was wrestling messages, so he told him to go to a specific page. They waited for Ross Ulbricht to open the page, and then they went in, grabbed his laptop, arrested him, and they had everything open on the screen.
Stalk him right in the face.
Wow.
Right, so they basically entrapped him.
Talk about a setup.
And then while he was open, while his computer was unlocked. Now what's really interesting is they said his computer had a 10-second...
15 seconds.
15-second screen lock.
Yeah.
So that if the screen locked, if it hadn't been touched for more than 15 seconds, it's shut down. So basically, they got him on the phone, got a visual feed on him. So they're watching him communicate on the phone. Okay, he's talking. You remember The Wire, right?
Yeah.
Watching him talk to your man on the inside.
Hurt surveillance to the 10th degree.
To the 10th degree.
Yeah.
Burn a hole in your ear and your eye.
Yeah.
And then the second they knew that he was logged in, once they knew that he was on something that was compromising, 8 guys jumped him in the library.
Within 15 seconds before
there was 2 guys' jobs who was to not do
not to catch him, just ensure
there could be gunfire. There could be a terrorist attack going on.
There could be a
bolt of lightning. Stays on, right?
Yeah. And the only thing they were supposed to do was grab that laptop and move that mouse.
Sure, that screen is there.
Keep moving that mouse all the way back to the truck.
In a 15-second time window.
Oh,
it's really interesting stuff.
It's
It's
crazy.
like out of a spy novel, but it's real.
Yeah.
Maybe these guys are real. Maybe that's who writes the spy novels.
I don't know.
Okay, so G-Sync, guys. So G-Sync is NVIDIA's new technology. Televisions, monitors are going to have the G-Sync chip in them. And basically it's a refreshing rate thing. It's going to allow the frames to be optimized, and
it synchronizes the refresh rate of your monitor with the rendering of your graphics,
Right. So it's going to be the most crisp experience. But what this is going to allow you to do is it's going to allow you to basically in real time change the frequency. Mm-hmm. So whereas a lot of TVs are locked into 60, 80, or 120, if you're watching high definition sports through a digital source, this is going to allow you to watch that at 120 hertz.
I mean, like right now, like the time delay is like in several milliseconds, right? When you buy the monitors, they literally it's like 5 milliseconds, 3 seconds, or 3 milliseconds, 1 milliseconds. In terms of this, is it like even beyond that when it comes to real time?
A lot of the technologies are actually beyond human comprehension.
Yeah.
So the refresh rating after 5 milliseconds or 4.7 milliseconds or something is below human threshold.
Yeah, that stuff, the monitor refresh rate, that's about how fast the image updates on the monitor screen. The G-Sync is specifically has to do with syncing the graphics processing unit with the refresh rate.
Well, especially imagine when you're trying to watch like a live event, right? And you're watching it online or through like an online source on your TV or whatever. Like I'm talking like we just had the Super Bowl last night. Like if you're watching the Oscars or like live news updates on a particular world event or something crazy, like a breaking story. Think of how many more people are not only going to be able to access it as it's going on, but watch it in like, the most peak format that like technology almost has to offer.
See, G-Sync is interesting. It's hard to explain. Now, recently they just said that they hacked it on the 980, and they were able to get it to. They were able to turn it on. They were able to check the box by hacking the G-Sync driver to enable it on a television that didn't have it. Now, FreeSync is an open sourced version of something incredibly similar, which NVIDIA has said they will have nothing to do with. We will not touch FreeSync. We will not support FreeSync. Although it will basically apply to everything. And it already does exist, and it works well, and it's open source, and it's already being implemented. So, yeah. The argument is, did they just hack the driver so that they could check the box? Or did they actually turn on G-Sync? We don't know. We'll have to keep waiting for that one. Follow our channel next week. We'll bring you the latest update on that. I'm sure they'll have an answer.
I'm sure there's a lot of story on the competitive scene for that. Yeah.
It's interesting. NVIDIA is not enjoying that one. So now here's one that's close, I think, to all of our hearts. The Pirate Bay is back.
Wow.
Okay.
Well, and it's like a bad penny. It's always going to turn up. Like
it never die. You can actually download open source versions of the Pirate Bay yourself and host your own.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, realistically, how are they ever going to shut it down without, like, shutting down the internet as a whole? Like, it's a complete peer-to-peer thing in every sense of the word. Like, there's one...
Especially with the magnets now.
There's no one...
Really difficult to track.
But there's no one main hub that it's located at. Like, there's no one server they could just flick the switch on. And sure, they're indicting these guys and taking them to court and, like, all this stuff. But
Trying to.
Yeah, but that's the thing, is they haven't even actually, despite, like, how long they've been on these guys, like, almost 15 years now, they haven't been able...
They're still looking for .com.
But no, they're still being charged with other things that they did.
Tax evasion.
But they haven't...
Hacking,
they haven't been able to nail one of these guys yet. They haven't been able to put any of them behind bars.
I don't know if that's true.
Yeah,
I'm going to call bullshit on that statement, but...
because there's a lot of conspiracy running behind that.
.com lost those mansions and everything. He's got a new upload website he's building right now. Like, nothing can seem to stop him. So, now, Pirate Bay, for those that don't know, it's the most, as it says, the most resilient torrent website on the internet.
Without a doubt. It certainly lives true to the name, that's for sure.
A huge percentage of the internet traffic, it was like the number one file
torrent
tracker.
Site.
Yeah, even with all that cracking,
shut down
right?
before. It was shut down
multiple
in Sweden,
times.
And and it's funny because there's always these giant police raids.
There's a video of the last raid that they had.
Yeah, and it's really funny because police don't really... People who aren't in the technology industry, people who aren't educated in the world as much as we are, even if you were to work in a technological area of the special forces, unless you ever had stepped in a server room or installed a Linux GUI on something, you don't really know what a server looks like. So they get like 18 of these cops and they SWAT vest them out and they give them all small arms and submachine guns. And they basically break into like a basement of a building.
Like it's a drug dealer's
right,
den,
and they come kicking in and they run through the hallways of, and so they kick in these doors of these server rooms, expecting to see like like
Al-Qaeda.
pirates with eye patches in front of computers with like Korean hacker babes and tube tops or something. I don't know. Do they think like the triads are gonna shoot him? Then nothing's gonna happen.
Can you just
and even if it
imagine
did, it'd be one guy there like maintaining network traffic. You know,
Yeah,
and pulling
like-
hard drives and putting new hard drives.
For
in.
people who are considered like international outlaws, these guys aren't exactly the upper echelon of the badass department.
I know, right?
It's not like trying to catch Pablo Escobar or something like that.
So
you
if
know
you
what
go
I
to the
mean?
Pirate Bay right now, you will see. Does anyone know what's on the Pirate Bay homepage right now?
I do not actually.
Really?
I don't know. I just know it's a shadow of what it used to
It's
be.
the Phoenix. It's the
Yes,
Phoenix.
the Phoenix.
Rising from the ashes.
So you'll see the beautiful red Phoenix there on the
But it's not the
homepage.
same.
Rising
I mean,
from
now
the
they're saying
ashes.
they're not going to have any mods, so you're not going to have anyone that's going to be sifting through the traffic, pulling out all the garbage posts.
Oh, yeah.
Right now, if you go and search for like one of the latest Cam movies, you'll find a bunch of bullshit posts that have been uploaded saying that, oh, it's a Blu-ray, but the Blu-ray doesn't exist yet.
Yeah.
So you're just gonna have to move on, start using.
It's not
I mean,
spammers.
I've moved on to using Kick-Ass now.
Oh yeah, that's
I
one
don't
of the
like
things right
Kick-Ass
now,
though.
but
It's okay.
that's what we end
I
up
mean,
with. Right?
Demonoid was my favorite in the beginning, but ever since that disappeared and came back
Whatever
up, there's
happened-
been lots of questions about whether that's been
Demonoid
legitimate.
was supposed to be not legitimate, yeah.
Yeah, they were
So,
thinking-
and that's what I want. I miss IRC guys. I miss IRC botnets. I miss,
Oh,
I miss
yeah.
like who is or
IRC,
or
yeah.
like file get queries and stuff in chat rooms to see what people had and like downloading.
You
movies
just look
through
where you
chat
can
bots.
find it, right? You just
It
find
was
where you
so
can.
amazing. But so that's what I need you guys to know about the Pirate Bay. This is a big warning. I know you guys, you're potheads and you computer junkies out there eating your Cheetos and your pizza pockets. Pay attention.
Behind
Okay?
the scenes.
The Pirate Bay is not necessarily owned by the Pirate Bay or anyone with good intentions right now. If you look up the Who Is information for the Pirate Bay right now, you'll be getting the information for a privacy group, which is a service that hides your registry domain information for a fee. Now, the problem with these guys is one of the services that has been acquired for the piratebay.se is spam bot protection. Now, how do they spam bot protect their servers?
logging.
They log all the IP traffic that comes into the server. So that means
Well, it's like kind of shoddy at best.
if you
know
go to
what
the
I mean?
Pirate Bay, they check your IP to see if you're a bot or not, and then they allow you through. Well, at that point, you've been botted or you've been logged, as Spencer suggested. So, the Pirate Bay, Phoenix from the ashes. There is rumors, and it is a very loose rumor. Someone without much clout suggested that it was a possibility that the FBI has seized the Pirate Bay domain and is now doing this to track people. I don't necessarily think that's true.
Yeah.
But
Seems like an interesting tactic, though.
Yeah.
It
that'd
wouldn't
be
be
really
impossible.
wicked.
We know that they
No.
had. We know that they had TrackerNet stuff, anyways.
Yeah.
Well, that seems like a pretty logical
Well, if it's one
way to try
everyday
to
thing, just say it.
track people like that, though. It's an interesting theory. That's all I'm saying.
just don't go to the danger grounds there. Just play
yeah,
it safe.
Yeah, you will use Kick-Ass in the meantime. You know.
There's
So,
a million other things out there.
let's talk about Windows 10. So Windows 10
Free upgrade.
is going to be free to anyone on
7, 8, 8.1.
for free for the first year.
Yeah.
It's going to be permanently free to anyone on Android. And it's going to be...
What do you mean on Android?
They're making it for the
For your phone.
for the
Oh,
phones.
they're replacing it for two.
Right, because they want to be in direct competition with the Google stuff.
Yeah,
So it's going to be... And then
Windows Phone.
they've
Windows
got... There was something else. They're making it free. It's free to developers right now, too. So Windows 10 has got the reinstatement of the start bar. So what do you guys think about the lack of start bar for Windows 8?
I'd never used Windows 8 directly because of that.
If you don't have a touch
That doesn't
interface,
speak
and-
volumes right
I
there.
never
Using
really made
Windows
use
8
of that.
unless you're touch.
And Spencer is our resident nerd in the well, no, I got 6 monitors, but
I only have 2, so.
he's certainly up there. So now Cortana.
Ooh, a sexy voice.
Tell me about the sexy voice, Eddie.
Well, if you guys ever follow the Halo series, I told you it was some gaming, right? So this is definitely flagship character that you would really want to follow in terms of voices, right?
And now it's coming to life.
Yes.
So explain to us. Oh, you're so excited to talk to people. Hello, Eddie.
I mean,
Welcome home. How was your day, Eddie?
Well, and come on.
It's
like,
a huge step from the
I've
current
updated
step, right?
I've updated your calendar. I've pulled up tomorrow's weather, and I've taken time to order pizza for you.
And I booked in a 20-minute masturbation session
Right
after.
after. Oh,
you
yeah.
got it right there.
Yeah.
You got it right there.
Masturbate
After
during
eating.
8 to 6 o'clock.
just kidding. It's only 10. Well, and meanwhile, it's just like,
You're so funny, Cortana.
well, it's just like, how perfect is that? Like, for like a bunch of, like, you look at the demographics of gaming, right?
Yeah.
Who are your typical video game players, you guys would say? If you had to take a guess.
54% men?
Between ages like 14 and 25, right?
That's probably
I'd say
No,
between
14
ages
and 30.
12
It's 30
and
It's way
35.
higher now.
It's 30
like
something
20.
now.
It's
I'm
21
no,
to
I'm asking for a
35.
ballpark estimate here.
Well, you're asking the right guys.
Yeah. So like 12 to 40 is what you're saying.
35.
Sure.
And you'd say the majority of them would be dudes, right?
No,
No,
54%.
anymore.
not anymore. Especially with mobile gaming. You should
Yeah,
see
well,
how
no,
The numbers
no,
in the past
playing-
5 years, the numbers have gone way
My,
different than
Oh,
they
yeah.
used to
Farmville
be.
and Candy Crush, man.
No,
you
no,
know,
I'm
Yeah,
talking
sure.
more of like people
Nope.
who play like Xbox and
That
PS4.
counts. It
Yeah,
counts.
it's
You'd be
just
surprised.
journalists. Yeah.
Sexy video gamers.
No, but I'm just saying. So let's
Right here.
let's say that the majority of them aren't like straight white dudes or
Our
just
Price is
straight
Right girl
dudes.
Vancouver over here.
Yeah, totally. Or
Go
just
on.
straight
Go
dudes,
on.
right? How logical is it that they're gonna get some chick with like a porno hotline voice?
Yeah, but women are reassured by women too that aren't.
Ever participate in these online communities where you're like just
I think
going
she's a
into
bitch.
like those MMORPGs where you're just hanging out with these gamers, and when it's a social game,
I can't
there's
wait.
always the social people there, you know?
I can't wait. I want
What are you
Cortana.
talking about there?
But that's what
Now,
I mean. As
they
like a
actually
social entity, of course, these like stereotypical video game nerds are gonna get like totally fired up about it. Nobody's really gonna be complaining about it that much, other than people who have a life outside of
Well,
video
hold on.
games.
It's legit. It's legit.
Hold on. This is not geared towards people for video games.
Yeah,
this
it's
is
business.
geared to absolutely everybody.
Oh,
Yes.
It's on
This is
Windows.
supposed to be. It's
on
built into
operating
absolutely
system.
everyone's new way of dealing
so
with
it's like
everything.
Scarlett Johansson and her.
Right. It's like your house is now smarter
Mm-hmm.
and can book your appointments and order fast food for you and buy pizza and recommend pornography.
Is that like is that necessarily a good thing though? When
Well,
technology's
okay, so
already made people
here's the
this
thing.
lazy, like you really think they
It's always listening first and foremost.
which
so
is
it's-
kind of creepy.
Right. Right. It's like, Fahrenheit.
451.
Yeah,
Birdie
this kind of
bucks.
stuff. Like they're listening. It's interesting. The Orison books and whatnot.
Yeah, 1984, and they're always watching. Like,
Right. So this
Your brother's
is
watching
this
it.
is stuff you want. If you guys haven't read his books, what's the two that you would recommend reading of Orison's?
oh, George Orwell's.
George
I-
Orwell?
Orwell,
well,
sorry.
Well,
Yeah.
obviously, Animal Farm and
Well,
that
those
is
are like
like
those are like the
Yeah.
flagship ones in
1984.
1984. Yeah.
But you should look at his essays when he talk about like
Yes.
languages and how they control the mind, how you think, and stuff like history, how the history builds your future and everything.
Predicted the
Or-
ATMs.
yeah,
and all these things
Or
were
even
That
just
was
how
amazing.
how you can use the impact of certain trigger words to get more people into herd thinking. And how they use them in like politics and on the news, and it's a tale as old as time, but it's just like
Orwell.
them reinventing how they use language to
He did
adapt
this in the
it to all
40s.
these new forms.
Yeah, and then he predicted all this stuff, which is like
He's like almost a
reality
century ahead of
that's
himself.
completely normal to he's like 100 years ahead of himself.
Yeah.
The things that he predicted are still coming
Oh,
true
it's
today.
the same thing with Arthur C. Clarke and like the
Right.
2001 Space Odyssey books and like Fahrenheit 451 and even Player Piano by Kurt Vonnegut. It's
Oh.
scary.
Save it. We'll save that for the Road Review channel.
Yeah, it's
We'll
scary
save
though.
So let's talk about probably one of the coolest advancements in technology itself this week. Brand new leading edge stuff here. Magnetic graphene.
Do you might want to get a little background on that one?
Little? Is that? Are you making a tiny joke?
Maybe nano.
Nano, there you go.
Little pun action for you fiends out there.
So graphene is single atom wide basically
Is it carbon?
molecule structures.
Yeah, single atoms of carbon. It's a single atom of carbon in a layer in a sheet
layer.
form in a lattice.
Yes.
Yeah, Spencer's the guy to go for this.
Right. Now this is with the advantage of this is nanotechnology. 4 or 5 years ago, they were writing their names on the sides of these things. They were putting signatures and things in the nanotechnology. But now we've essentially made flowing current. So by making a polar negative and positive, you can use these things in a whole variety of different technologies. So let's think of like an MRI or a CAT scan, for example. The magnetism, the frequency that the magnets put off is what is actually read by the computer system. So it's that frequency that allows you to see what the density and the different matter that it's interacting with is. Now, instead of having large magnets, having a series of magnets, you could have a whole wall of a series of magnets. So what you're doing is you're turning your resolution from 1 centimeter squared to 1 nanometer squared, which is incredible. So for reading people's dreams and MRI technologies and current, so different types of boards, microcomputing, this will completely revolutionize the industry. You pair this with quantum computing, which we're now figuring out. The singularity is not too far off, guys.
The future is now.
It's now. It's right now.
Can you imagine?
It's certainly an interesting time to be alive. And you know what? As much as people complain about, like, you know, how cell phones and video games make people lazy and how technology is the downfall of human interaction, especially with, like, the advent of online dating and, like, the social impact that technology has on the day-to-day. Like, how it's changing, like, you know, the economy.
Oh, my God.
My landlord, so what was the dilemma there?
No, my landlord was just texting me.
About
stuff at the house. That's my business.
Spencer's,
I pay my bills. I'm a grown-ass man. I take care of my own shit.
Spencer's dying over here. Okay, so let's get back onto it. So graphene. Graphene will change the world. That is the bottom line. Magnetized graphene.
Nanotubes, man.
Magnetic nanotubes.
Nanotubes.
I mean, like, it's hard to wrap yourself around it, but the endless possibilities that would be coming with just this technology alone, and like the ways you can develop around this.
Think
As
of
you
all
said,
the things we could do with this guy's brain.
Mm.
You could put hundreds.
can you just
of
imagine
chips
putting
about
like
that.
this super thin, multi-layer
Full of-
shit
But that's what
over
I mean.
his
It's
head?
always so refreshing to
Just
hear
running
a
over his head.
positive story about how technology is actually changing the world in a great new way. Like the
6
way
months later, magnetic graphene took over the universe.
transcended
Completely covered the
stuff.
planet.
I know,
Like
right?
what you were talking about, how it can revolutionize like the health industry and
Oh,
like
yeah.
you know
Yeah.
medicine and all of this kind of stuff. And like imagine how many tumors they're going to be able to catch earlier on, or the amount of research they can
Well, I
do on
wondered
things like
about-
Alzheimer's disease. And like you
You'll
know,
be able to get all the worms out of Spencer with all.
the sushi.
You're the only worms here.
Well, how about
Sushi.
accessibility of this though? How readily available will this come out?
So this is something that they're going to be able to make at all the universities. This is something that it was specialized, but most facilities can get into it for relatively inexpensive now. Inexpensive
Yeah.
compared to the bar of entry.
Well, yeah, I believe
a
they
few
found that.
years ago. It's not nearly as expensive as you think it is.
Yeah. Well, they already have the nano
It's
technology.
It's still bleeding edge technology, though.
I would still call it bleeding edge.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's fairly there's multiple locations in Vancouver that would be working with graphene right now. Just as a simple example. So, let's go on here. Let's talk about USB 3.0 and 3.1. So, you've all been a part of the paradox. You've had the USB plug. You've tried to plug it in.
I don't even know if that's part of that, is it?
You
For sure.
spun it over, tried to plug it in again. Spun it over, tried to plug it in again. And now you know something's really fucking wrong. Because you've just tried to... It's like the plug changes. It's like the pink elephant theory with the quantum sciences. What is behind that door? Anything is behind the door. It's just not the USB plug that you need. So to eliminate this... Because, you know, cancer and AIDS isn't a big enough issue.
No.
We decided we would spend...
We need a more daunting threat this time
We need a more
around.
daunting threat.
USB.
USB. The bane of any peripheral's existence, the USB plug. So they've made USB 3.0, which will plug in any direction now. And by any direction, I mean 2 directions, because it's still longer than it is wider. So it'll plug in either way, and it'll work. Now, Spencer, what's the current speeds with USB 3.0?
Is it 5 gigabits a second?
You should hold him to that. If he's wrong, go to his house and beat the crap out of him. Continue.
What? And they just came out with 3.1, which is 6 gigabits a second.
6 gigabits, 28% faster, they said, or it's quite interesting.
Yeah.
It's incredible that they optimized the new optimized technology
Pretty
only
quickly,
a few weeks into it. And by the time they implement this as a standard hardware, it'll be...
Maybe we'll be able to actually use it to its full potential.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Okay, so make that
There's
point.
a comforting thought.
Talk about that with us for a second.
So 6 gigabits a second is our computers right now don't actually have that. Like, we couldn't actually use that speed.
Right.
That's true.
Because there's too many bottlenecks in the processing. Yeah. So the buses, the transfer rates, the... Yeah.
Like, the USB 3.0 is now just as fast as SATA 3 is, or SATA 6 gigabits a second.
SATA 6, yeah. So, what does that mean? Does that mean that USB, we're going to get rid of SATA altogether?
I don't know.
There's an idea.
Hmm.
Well, that's going to blow my mind.
Talk about, like, jumping the... jumping
That's
the
the only thing that
milestones.
USB still does is it provides power, which SATA does not.
Right.
Hmm.
Right, which SATA does not.
And
which is a
USB
huge
shares
advantage.
shares the same bus. No, it doesn't SATA as well. I'm not sure.
No, it doesn't share the same bus.
Right.
There you go.
It shares the PCI bus.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Unless I'm wrong, and then tell us we're wrong. It's not like
And then you can
I
go to
have
his
brain
house and beat him
engineering
up.
beat me up. I'm a lot easier to find.
And we'll show you that video on our other channel.
Figure it right out. Okay, so now let's talk about the shitty tech for the week. Shitty tech for the week! Yeah! Okay, shitty tech. What's on our shitty tech for the week today? It starts with A and ends in watch.
Oh, Apple Watch?
Oh, isn't that bad? It was a bad description. I know. Who cares? Am I right? Am I right? Does anybody care
shitty
about
tech.
smartwatches yet?
No.
They've been spending how much money? Well, hey, Apple's got one. That means everyone's got to care,
Alex,
right?
didn't you get a Pebble?
Well, everybody wants their eye clusters or something.
Oh, well, the thing
It
is,
was
too,
very good for reading text messages, guys.
well, I think it's just getting to a point now where I, really believe that Apple's way more focused on, the fashion end of it and making things, more aesthetically pleasing or, something trendy and cool to wear rather than
it has to be
actually use.
expensive.
Yeah,
That's one of the
Well,
Apple
they've gotta
things. It has to be
expand.
expensive.
Oh, absolutely. Of course it does.
But that's actually as expensive
The
as a
iPod-
high-end watch, actually.
I'd say the iPod has all but died, has it not?
Well, yeah, it's been replaced by the iPhone.
It's fairly obsolete. It still exists. They still sell a ton of iPods, but most of their other products have faded away.
And most people have a phone that they can listen to.
So
their music
Apple's
on.
got what? They got the laptops.
iPad.
iPads.
So they do have a pretty versatile
Versatile.
Yeah.
cross section.
Well, but at the same time, too, I feel like they're trying to be
Things
more
with screens.
like IKEA rather than, than actually producing something that's, different about the way they deliver information or how people interact with it or, multiple ways to use it. And versatility, it's a watch, but I already have a clock in my iPhone, so, what's the major attraction here? It's a fashion accessory. It's not really a technological advancement of any kind.
It's
And
not
your
like-
phone can talk to your watch.
You could just so there's 3 ways you can do the external devices. Okay, so first way you can have a smart watch or a smart hat or a smart jacket, whatever you want. Smart spy goggles. There's 3 ways you can do it. First off, onboard processor. So you use some kind of ARM chip, something like the Raspberry Pi, something very similar to that.
Yeah.
Where that is your processing, which is done in-house on the device. Up until, say, this year, not really feasible for most applications just due to the processing capacity of the chipsets. So now with the Snapdragon going into just about everything, the newest Snapdragon chipset, that is enough power to do heads-up display GPS with music and Wi-Fi and incoming SMS services and all these things. With this type of processor, you'd finally be able to do all those things and still do it in real time and make it look fluid. If you look at some of the older devices, they're very slow to switch tiles and load and functions. They don't. It feels sluggish.
But that's what I mean. It's more centered around its aesthetic value rather than functionality.
Okay. So secondly, you can do remote, which is what Spencer mentioned. So Spencer mentioned the remote processing.
So yeah, via Bluetooth. So something like the Pebble, where you have your watch and it communicates with your phone via Bluetooth.
Right. So most of the processing is done where?
On the phone.
On the phone. So the thinking, the calculations, the fluidity, the sluggishness, all that, it's basically relied on the speed of the connection to the device, which is now fast with Bluetooth 4.0 and things, but also the phone's processor, which is perfect because if you've got these new Samsung 5s and everything, you've got the Snapdragon, you've got the new ARM chips, you've got the brand new processors, which are following Murphy's Law?
Mm-hmm.
Moore's Law. It's getting cheaper exponentially all the time, right? So these things are constantly getting better, and we're at the point now where we can use that pretty sophisticated.
And smaller.
And down, and nano now.
But the thing about Apple is they always focus on that ecosystem that you're supposed to have. It's supposed to be so wonderful when you have it as a group.
Now here's how Apple's, there's a third wave processing, which is not even, where the capacity isn't even owned by you. So this is a really interesting way to do it. Who's got this one?
Cloud processing.
We've got it. Spencer over here. Cloud processing. Cloud processing is basically where the processing, the equipment is done through the cloud. So Apple has a bunker full of servers, and those servers are thinking for your phone. So depending on what your phone was doing, if you were rendering a video, you might be using 6 of those servers or 6 of those processors in one of those servers, right? But then if you're just checking your text message, you and 600 other people are using that server at the same time. So it's cloud computing. The bottleneck in cloud computing is of course the digital communication, the wireless speeds, the communication speeds. So the processing can be done incredibly fast, but the speed at which it's transferred, encrypted, unencrypted, and then turned into an actual interface is quite dependent on the speeds of the internet. So as the speeds of the internet increase, that itself becomes a very attractive model as well. Mm-hmm. So you might see a lot of the external devices using that external process, and you're already starting to see some things that do that now. For example, the Hollow glasses, which I'm going back to because we're all in love with those right now, the Microsoft ones.
Oh, well, you look at that preview and tell me that isn't amazing.
The processing is actually done with an external pack. There's a secondary belt, which you wear, which has the actual computer, the processor in it. Now, very soon, that will be able to fit into the goggles.
Oh, totally.
Right? Yeah. They're not gonna spend millions and millions and millions of dollars shrinking this all down until they know it's something that people want. And if CES 2015 was any example, it was any
kind of indicator,
then certainly it's something they're going to be shrinking down and putting into glasses.
Oh well, yeah.
Okay, so now that was interesting, guys. So I'm gonna get everyone a beer. And we're going to come right back. So I'll be right back, guys. Give me 1 minute. Apple Watches. Buy it or don't buy it?
I wouldn't buy it. To me, it's a fucking fashion nugget. It's just
not going to have it as far as I'm
good.
Shitty product of the week, Apple. Down. Okay, so guys, we're drinking beer now. So, don't drink beer if you're not of age. Spencer, what are you drinking? What are you drinking, Spencer?
Water from underneath Alex's sink.
So in other words, he's drinking coconut. What are you drinking, Eddie?
I think it's wheat, right? It's made out of wheat?
It's made out of wheat.
I don't know.
He doesn't get out much.
I'm drinking. This one's called Heart of Gold Strippers. It's a microbrewery down in Michigan.
Made from the tears of real single
Real
moms
single
stripping their
moms.
way through college. And that's where they get all of the alcohol content from.
Comes from it goes in as tequila and then comes out as tears.
I used to own it. I sold it to a couple of bums in Detroit now. But, I'm happy to shed my skin a bit
my
and be
God.
here.
And what are you drinking?
I love some Mother's Tears.
I am drinking pure concentrated human soul, so I can,
Soul.
despite my red hair, know how the other side lives.
Okay.
Toast
that's interesting.
to souls, wheat, and tears.
Yeah, smells
The
really
And
water.
the water under
Yeah.
Alex's sink.
Cheers.
And don't buy an Apple Watch.
Okay, now let's talk about the FCC plan to fight. Okay, so who wants to break this down? Should I break this down? You guys want to break it down?
FCC.
Okay, basically, normally the FCC is the bad guy.
Yes.
We appreciate what they're
By
doing,
and large.
but normally their policies aren't very
Effective.
right.
Communication
They kind of just don't really do much. Hey, you should stop doing that, okay, guys?
If you guys could just cut that out,
that'd be great, okay?
Stop
doing whatever you're doing. That would just be really
Maybe Spencer is the guy who can break these things.
No, I
down,
can
you
break
know?
it down.
But
Whoa,
it's
I
Spencer.
So basically what's happened is the ISPs, the internet service providers, let's say
Mhm.
Comcast.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we gotta be
Hello,
careful,
Sierra.
Comcast. We don't usually say its name.
Like
We don't-
Wu-Tang Clan,
if you-
they
if you
ain't nothing
say-
to fuck with.
If you say it 3 times, you summon the devil. So don't say Comcast. Oh, damn it! That was twice. Shh. Verizon's the other one. Shit.
Yeah,
We're
let's
getting
leave it.
close. Everyone, smash all the mirrors around. We don't
I was
want
gonna
them coming
say,
to
all
life.
those guys who raided the Pirate Bay are gonna be busting in the door.
But the nerd.
Yeah, the
I want to at
Comcast
least
Verizon
finish this
voice.
before they get here, Hillman.
The
You want to
Verizon
send me
voice.
to jail before dinner time?
So, one of the things that's been going on is municipal-owned internet or community-owned internet. So,
yeah.
in a couple places in the northwestern states, they've been cities or municipals have been banding together, getting donations, laying their own fiber optics, and providing high-speed internet
Citywide.
service citywide as a service through the city, or as a option free of charge. So places like San Francisco, Las Vegas, Toronto, these places all have citywide municipal wireless internet free of charge.
And it's amazing. I
Right.
remember being in university when Toronto just released it like that as an initiative. And on top of that, because like especially when you're living in a major urban city like that,
And it's a huge opportunity.
for commuters, for
Right.
people of low income,
Because you link
like,
you link it into all the government services. You link it into all the transit. You link it into all the local facilities and commercial buildings. So you when it pops up, it says welcome to Toronto Wi-Fi. Are you hungry? Are you shopping? Would
Yeah.
you like the transit link?
yeah, it's
So it
amazing.
introduces you as a portal to all these local services. So the
Whether you're a
opportunities.
tourist or you live there, and
Right. So the opportunities are really big.
Yeah,
Now,
definitely.
one of the things that's been going on for a long time is the internet service providers, which are the devil, a lot of times, have been doing some really shady shit. One of the very common behaviors they'll actually do is they'll force entire buildings to go in one particular internet, and they even do that here in Vancouver.
oh, it's an incredibly common and monopolistic
So
practice.
let's say you're the manager of a complex or of a condo building. Say there's 12 floors, all with a bunch of floors on it. We're talking 300-400 people. Okay. Now, what you could easily do as a Comcast, as a Shaw Internet,
yeah.
as a Verizon, as a Rogers, you could go in and say, "Listen, I'll give you $2,500 cash. I'll write you a check right now. If you set it up as a policy through the building that if you're going to get internet, it has to be got through Rogers, and you can just unhook everyone else in the basement, and that's
Well,
what
essentially,
happens.
it's like franchising, right?
Right. So but they
It's
pay it. Now that $2,500 will be made back in sign-up fees from the residents alone,
Oh, easily.
10 times over.
Oh, it's like a boomerang.
Right. And then they get all the residual income from that, disallowing any competition. So this is antitrust. This is monopolistic. This is conspiratorial behavior.
Well,
This is serious shit. And
It's very, very common.
And it's very, very common. And in reality, based on current laws, it's very, very illegal.
Oh, and not only that, but it's incredibly shady. Just even like when you look at it on an economic level and like as on
It's
like a
bad
social
for
level.
bad for competition. It's
Like
bad
you
for
were
the
saying.
consumers.
But that's what I mean. Even on a personal basis, it's like even you as an individual have no idea how this is being run. You could be doing this at your workplace and have no idea how to trace it, how to get more information on it.
Your building admin could be doing it to you.
It's
You'd be getting 10 grand.
It could be in your apartment building. It could be anywhere. And meanwhile, you really have no way to even investigate or do something
when you move in,
about it.
they're gonna say if you want internet, you have to get it through this way. And if you ask if you can make other stuff, and they start making a hum and haw about it, it's not because another company shit. You know how many companies would be happy to run their cable into the condo for free on the condition that they could possibly sign up even half of the residents? And if they're going to charge $2 less than the existing plans, or $16 less a year if you sign up in bulk on the initial wave of clients, they're always happy. There's tons of profit in that.
Well,
setting up that cable would pay itself off within the first week.
It's half the money, but twice the sales, right?
Right.
So,
It's a lot more than twice. So Shaw, Verizon, Comcast, these companies have actually been lobbying to pass laws to make it illegal for new municipals to own the internet.
which I think is incredibly shady when you see municipals stepping up and actually doing a community service to enrich the lives of the day-to-day citizen.
Estonia has better internet than us.
Yep.
But that's what
Come on, guys. What is wrong with Canada and America? What is wrong with their country?
Well, and I like what you said, because one time we were having a conversation about freedom of access and access to
It
information.
should be a right.
Yeah, it should be a human right, you were saying, and
So-
I totally agree with that.